Hey everybody, Philip Alderfer here, another episode of the Weather Report podcast. I'm with my co-host Jason Flynn. Jason, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. It's still sunny, so I'm still happy.
There we go. It's a good thing to be happy about. I am thrilled that we have an amazing realtor, an amazing leader, and an even better friend on our conversation today. Jacob Sebring. Jacob, good morning. How are you?
Philip, it's not sunny, but I'm still doing great, Jake.
Perfect.
That's the difference between Alaska and California.
That's right.
Right. One
That's
of
it.
many.
One of many differences. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I was reading an article one time, and it said it laid out the 36 rules that if you followed them were guaranteed to result in a successful match, right? Two people were guaranteed to fall in love if you did these 36 things. Now, I'm not saying
Just
uh,
36 things. I
just
like it.
36 things. But one of them was you had to have a 4 minute conversation, an uninterrupted 4 minute conversation in which you told someone your life story. Now, the purpose of this, Jacob, is not so that you and I become closer, but it is to give an opportunity to introduce yourself to everybody. Tell us in 4 minutes what they need to know about you, your background, and how we ended up here together.
Man. Okay.
We're matchmaking.
We're
Like,
matchmaking
I
today,
like it.
baby.
Right. Philip, it's not my fault if you fall in love with me by the end of this.
Fair. That's
This came
fair.
out of your mouth.
Disclaimer.
Fair.
I grew up in the Midwest, in Minnesota and Iowa until my mid-teens. Moved up to Alaska. My father had a construction company. He built large custom residential homes, and I after high school, I did the thing that just about everybody's told to do: go to college and I don't know, figure out your degree and do whatever you want to do. And and it was right as the real estate boom was starting to happen in 2004 and 5, before the bubble popped in 7. Right. Um, my father convinced me to come back to Alaska, get my real estate license. So I got licensed in '06.
Mhm.
Uh, Represented him, and for multiple years I was the number one solo agent at Keller Williams here in Alaska, and then decided to get into leadership and moved down to Arizona. Ran Keller Williams Phoenix for 3 years. Moved back up here, got to work with Philip, which is the pinnacle of my career, and then ran Keller Williams here in Alaska for a little while. A few years ago, left, and we opened Real Broker here in the state of Alaska. We finished the year as the being open 2.5 years. We finished the year as the fourth largest brokerage in the state. So, just doing what I can to provide for the people.
Yeah, yeah. So this conversation came out of another discussion you and I were having earlier, just kind of about the future of real estate. So I want to go there, but and we'll focus our time on that. But I am curious, what was it? I don't know that I know this. What was it about the real estate business that attracted you? What was the hook in this industry for you?
You know what? This is going to sound super selfish, so I hope not. But uh, when I was going to college down in Seattle, and I was going to college for business, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was looking at like getting a consulting job or something with KPMG or something like that. And I
Sure.
came back up here for Christmas, and I was like 2 years into my into college. Came back up here for Christmas, and my dad wanted to show me some of like some of the places that he was building up on Hillside, like some of the two comma places. And back in '05, that was an expensive house.
Big deal. Yeah.
So we went, and we were walking through some of these houses, and super amazing houses, killer view, like jade fireplaces, right? Like all the boxes checked. And he casually asked, he said, "So how do the job prospects look, right? Like when you graduate next year?" I'm like, "I don't know. I never went to college. What do you expect to, what sort of job and income do you expect to get?" And I said, I mean, probably somewhere like KPMG, and I don't know, I'll be happy making 50,000. And we were walking through an unyet finished house,
Uh-huh.
and I'll never forget this. I was like, I'll be happy to make about 50,000. And he stops and he looks over his shoulder and he goes, "A year?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Okay, whoa," and like the conversation immediately switched, and
Yeah.
it was like, "Why are you, dude? Oh my god, my real estate agent's gonna make, I mean, almost 150 just off me. I don't even know what she's making off ever. This is ridiculous. Why don't you should quit
Yeah.
college right now, come back home, and sell real estate for me."
Yeah.
And 10 days later, I packed my truck and driving out the Alcan.
Did exactly that. So it's
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah, really,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I'd seen what he built, but all the people that worked for him, had like 9.5 fingers, or
Yeah.
like all the people in the like in the construction industry, right? Like
Hmm.
you never see somebody that's like 50 or 60 in the construction industry that still moves like a 25-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Um, and real estate, I mean, you should progressively get better. If you're building a business, if you're building a network, if you're building a database, you should progressively be adding snow to the snowball, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
And it just wasn't like that in the construction industry. So I was like, awesome. I can be a firecracker for like 10 quick years and then slowly fizzle out, or I can build something over time, right?
So if that, let's assume that that's a relatively common story, because I suspect that it is, right? People get into this industry because of some sense of opportunity and some way of sustainability. From your seat now, looking back on what you've done so far and looking ahead to the future, we'll pivot there. But looking back, why do you think people struggle with that? Right? I think that's a clear. I think that it's an attractive proposition, yet far fewer attain it. How come?
To clarify, when you say struggle with that, what do you
Sorry,
mean?
achieving, right? Achieving, building the opportunities that they want. They see the industry and they say, this is an opportunity-rich environment.
Yeah, yeah,
I can make money. I can design a business. I can design my life.
yeah,
Yet, but people still struggle with that and have struggled
yeah.
with that for a while. What's the friction?
Where's the disconnect, huh?
Yeah.
Um, as cordy as this is going to sound, I think it boils down to mindset, Philip.
Okay.
Um, Not, and I don't mean that in the way, like have a higher lid.
Yeah.
Um, I, I mean, you've seen enough new licensees that have gotten into the industry with an employee mindset,
Yeah.
right? What days do I work, boss? What are my hours, boss? What tasks do I need to complete today, boss? Um, so much so that when they get into the industry, if you don't have very clearly defined tasks for them to do, and you say, no, it's your business, you can build it however you want,
Yeah.
there's a super small percentage of the population that goes, oh my God, this is amazing, I can build it however I want. And then there's a very large portion of the population that goes, what? I don't know how to build anything. I
Yeah.
need,
Now what?
yeah,
Now what?
yeah, right. I I need some direction, right? And they flounder. And I mean, most people can trip over a handful of transactions their first year, right? Like just their database, more or less, like being nice. But as far as actually building a business, right, a sustainable business, I think it just requires a mindset shift. And the vast majority of people that are getting into real estate are getting into real estate from an employee mindset type role,
Hmm.
right? And it's just a switch that for a lot of people never happens.
A lot of times we talk about you have the independent agent, the interdependent agent, and the dependent agent, right? So for a long time we operated, you had the independent agents were exactly that. The ones that they either joined a brokerage and didn't need a lot of support, or they literally created independent brokerages, right? And they went off on their own. The interdependent was a much bigger chunk of people where it's like, hey, I want the brokerage support and I want to pay kind of more a la carte for the different services. Like I don't want to pay too much, not like being on a team. I'm willing to pay some for the right amount of value. And then you have the dependent agent, which is a no, will you come do this for me? Right. Like I
Yeah.
just want to go be the person on House Hunters or $1 Million Listing. I just want to go out, be in front of clients all day, every day, go sell houses. Right. And so it's been an interesting thing where we're seeing that interdependent, I think, shrink. So
Sure.
independent, that's getting bigger. And then the dependent agent is actually getting bigger. And that's where we see the power of teams really taking charge. Because it's like, I'll give you all the support and service as a team. You just have to go out, show houses, or talk to sellers. Go do that. We'll do everything else for you. And people seem to be happier when they're that personality.
When that,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that'd be an interesting question if you're watching this, if you happen to be watching this later or watching this on YouTube. I would love to know what you think, right? That dependent, interdependent, independent model. Which do you think is the path forward? Because I think that is right. That's the kind of question we talked about before we hit record. Was what is the future looking like? Like
Mm-hmm.
what is this industry going to be in 10 years? You got started in what, 2006, 2005, 2006. All right. So almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago, like
Yeah.
18 years from now, what's our conversation going to be around?
Yeah. 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 And I think that's the exact same reason why we see so many people that absolutely thrive on a team, right? Like how many people do we know on teams all across the US that sell 50, 60, 70 units a year?
Mhm.
And then their friends and coworkers and all the other realtors that they talk to are like, "Oh my God, man, do you know how much money you're making for your team leader? You should go out on your own." And they do, and they go from 50, 60, 70 units a year to 9.
Yeah.
And it's and it's not because they're not a good real estate agent, right? There's a big difference between a good real estate agent versus a good business person in the real estate industry,
In the sector. Yeah.
right? And I think too many people rely on being a really good real estate agent in order to build their business. And I can build the best fence in the state, but if I don't know how to build a fencing company, then I'm
Yeah.
only going to build a handful of fences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a book, and it'll come to me in a minute, but the idea, making money is killing your business, something like that, right? It's that idea that your job is not to make money. If you say I am a business owner, your job is not to make money. Your job is to build a business that makes money,
So
right? And
we just
that is a
heard, oh, God.
different thing. Yeah, good.
We just heard from Cody Sanchez at Family Reunion in February. And I think they were recording the One Thing podcast. So that I would think now should be coming out maybe around same time as this. Go find that interview with her where she talks about what's the net worth of your business, right? So we'll often, as real estate agents, they talk about how much volume did they sell? Don't really care. How much revenue did you bring in? Still not that interested. Much more interested in how much profit does a company or a team make. But then she takes it a step further to say, no, what is the value of the business? What's that business worth if you were to go try to sell it today? And inevitably people will say, oh, I don't plan on selling it. I don't want to sell it. That's not my goal. And she's like, you don't know and I'm totally putting words in her mouth, but I don't care. It's like, you don't know what is going to happen in 2 years. What if suddenly you need $4 million for a medical thing, whatever, and your business is worth $4 million? I might sell that business to get that cash influx.
Yep.
Right. And so that's my new favorite question to ask agents, is to say, what's the net worth, or what's your business valuation? How is your business valued? And you can't do it without all the things we were going to talk about: technology, leverage, even just having the systems in place to understand what is the actual value of a business if I take myself out of it.
Yeah. 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 So Jacob, what are the things, if we were to identify some of those key the components of a successful business in this industry, right? People, technology, systems. What would you, if you were coaching us on the essential things we need to learn, we need to master to move from being a fence builder to a fence building company, but in the real estate space,
Yeah,
wh-
yeah.
where where would you suggest we begin? What should we focus on?
It's a great question. Um, First, I'm going to ask you something, and if we don't know the exact numbers, that's fine. It's
Yeah.
just the idea. Um, GM and Ford are both
Uh-huh.
publicly traded companies,
Yep.
right? And Jason asked, "What's your business worth?" As a multiple of profit. Do you know what their valuation trades at?
No.
No, I'm not sure.
It's, I mean, I don't know what it is today, but generally speaking, Ford and GM trade somewhere between like 5 to 8 times
For
multiple
profit. Yeah.
of their profit. Do you know what Tesla trades
Ford's
at?
at 7.8 right now
There you go,
Yeah.
7.8.
for what matters.
Do you know what Tesla trades at?
What is Tesla? No.
Did you say what is Tesla?
No. What is Tesla at? Yeah. What is that? What's the Tesla?
Jason? Can you look it up as a
Yeah,
multiple of profit?
47.
47, and that's down.
47.
That's
Yeah.
down. Like at its peak, Tesla was trading at 1,700 times multiple of its profitability.
Yeah.
They both build cars. Fundamentally, what's the
Yeah.
difference between the two?
Well, one might say
Yeah.
one makes good cars, but anyway, that's a different.
One makes cars that go uphill, but that's okay.
One of them could probably be considered like a mature business, right?
Mhm.
Like they hire managers rather than hiring leaders, right? Like they start using those sort of terms. Whereas one of them, the market, at least, based on what it's trading at, the market thinks that one of the other ones has far more growth potential, right?
Mhm.
So back to your original question about how to be a fence builder rather than how to have a fence building company rather than how to just build fences. I think the more autom- autom- automation and systemization and data that you have incorporated into your business that isn't explicitly dependent on you pulling the lever every day,
Okay.
the higher the valuation your business would trade at as a multiple of net.
Of net.
Right?
So, okay. So what is it about data and automation in real estate that would be valuable? Connect the dots. If I'm starting this thing, I'm really
Yeah.
good at real estate, and I say, Jacob, all right, I need more data, I need more automation. Why?
Yeah.
What is that going to do for me?
Gosh, I mean, all the all the $1 trillion companies in America, all the $1 trillion companies are data companies, right? And the more data a company has, the more available uh, the more available potential it has, right? If you When I used to sit down with brand new licensees, I used to metaphorically salivate when they would tell me they grew up here, they played multiple sports, their parents were like prominent figures, in the public, like the sort of person that would have a massive database, right? And I used to metaphorically salivate, like, oh my God, you're like, there's so much potential, right?
Yeah.
And then you would find out, uh, well, not really. It's just someone I casually know. Well, they don't really know how to get like the 4 or 5 points of contact. They have 1 point of contact, and they don't want to ask for the other points of contact, right?
Hmm.
And And slowly over time, I've just gotten to the point that people that have grown, like passively grown a large network of friends, is not the same as somebody that's grown a large database of business clients,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? The potential exists for them to be the exact same thing,
Yeah.
but the vast majority of people don't know how to transfer that potential.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just fundamentally a different skill set, right? Like the type of skill set that builds a super large friend network more often than not is not the type of skill set that figures out how to monetize that network.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of like talking to Scott Maloof recently, where he said they have a database of 67,000 people, right? And so he's in Houston, San Antonio, Texas, so many millions of people in the market or whatever, but he has 67,000 people in that database. Now, not all of them are the people that are like, oh, that this is a monetizable person as far as are they going to do a transaction with me? But you get so many leading indicators of these are the people looking for homes, or if you have like any opportunity for them, you have more eyeballs. But then in his case, he even leverages that database to get invited by like the city's larger events, that they'll contact him saying, hey, will you reach out to your database for us? Like, hey, we want you to come be part of this because you're going to bring the people, because it's kind of what's the saying? Your net worth is your network is your net worth.
It's your
Yeah.
Right.
network.
So it's like,
Yeah.
we can have all that data. Maybe those are people that are going to transact with us, but really I just want to know, what are they doing? What are they seeing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
did
Right.
Zillow buy Follow Up Boss? Right?
Yeah.
They're not marketing to those people that are in our databases, but they could absolutely use the data in there to say, okay, all of a sudden there's these people are all located in Santa Cruz and are all submitting home valuations or something like that. Even though they're not going to market to them, just owning that information is like
On the information.
wildly powerful for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like, thinking about trends, at least for me, it helps if I think in extremes. So if there were two people that were trying to give us they were trying to give us information on like the best ways to do open houses and the best days and times to do open houses. And one of them has done two ever. They did one on a rainy Saturday and they did one on a sunny Sunday,
Mhm.
right? And they've determined that rainy days are not a good day to do open houses
Mhm.
because nobody showed up to their very first open house, right? Or you talk to the person that's done an open house every single weekend for 7 years in a row, right?
Mhm.
They've done it on plenty of Saturdays, plenty of Sundays, plenty of rainy days, plenty of snowy days, plenty of sunny days. They've done it from 10 to 1. They've done it from 1 to 4. They've done two different time slots. Every single possible way that you could A/B test something, they've done it.
Mhm.
And they've determined
Mhm.
that rainy days are actually the best day to do it. Which one of those two are we probably more prone to believe?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So more data quite frequently. It lets us go. Are you sure it wasn't just because it was Saturday?
Not just
Uh,
random.
yeah. Are you sure it wasn't because the house you chose had 9 turns to get there? Are you sure it's? I mean, there's so many different factors, right? And if you don't have enough data points, or if you don't have a large enough data set, it's really, really difficult to know which lever needs pulled, right?
Yeah.
And just like Jason was talking about, it's the same thing with our database, right? If we don't have a large enough data set with our database, and if we don't have them in a place that's easily accessible,
Mhm.
it makes it really, really difficult for us to scale absolutely anything,
Yeah.
you know? So
Just thinking about that, the idea of the realtor with the friend network, that initial moment of they're going to be great. Well, their database is not a data set using these. They're it's miles wide but inches deep.
yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how much. I don't want to break this down into, but if you had to put together Like if you had to give inputs to a computer, right?
Yeah.
And you had to give inputs that determine how you grow a relationship, right? Like, hey computer, I know the concept of being friendly to that robot right there doesn't really work with you, but if you wanted to grow a relationship with that robot, here's how you would do it, right? Like if you had to give inputs to that robot on how to build a relationship with the robot next to him, what sort of inputs would we give that robot?
Mhm.
We'd say things like be nice, uh, ask them good questions,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Remember their birthday, provide value, do them favors when they need it.
Mhm.
Like all the, like all the things that we would commonly say, oh, this is what a friend does, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like those are inputs that you can give. You can literally give a robot, right, to teach a robot how to build a relationship, right?
You give them the
So
36
we have,
questions.
yeah, yep, exactly. So if there are inputs that we could give a robot, then we can we can deliver those inputs into our CRM, and
Mhm.
we can scale relationships to some extent,
Mhm.
right? But
Mhm.
if you don't have all the data that's needed in order to act on those inputs that you're giving the robot, then it makes it really, really difficult to scale anything.
Yeah.
And
And
then
that,
going back to Tesla, right? Like Tesla, when we talk about look at the data, like from the autopilot, like just using the Tesla autopilot that's collecting information every time a Tesla is on the road, it's collecting information about what is this driver doing, what are the other drivers doing, what are the roads doing, right? It's collecting all this information and data, whereas all the other car companies are not, or they're just beginning to, whereas now Tesla's been using autopilot for
Or,
6 years
or they're
or so.
relying on Tesla's data.
or they're relying on
Right.
Tesla's
Yeah.
data. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Even
And
look at the supercharger network, right? Then they can determine how many people are using what superchargers, are having to charge
Yeah.
how much. Then they start collecting all that. Tesla then goes and makes partnerships with Ford and GM and all these other companies to say, hey,
Yeah.
come use our network, partly because it's going to help their PE ratio at the end. It's going to bring them
yeah,
more revenue and profit. But it's also giving them massively more data,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So data.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, so my takeaway, so if I was going to put this on a bumper sticker for somebody, right? It's not that you don't have to be a master of the data aggregation, but you have to understand how information and data is critical in your business. It's not a matter of the skill set of selling more homes, hosting a better open house, because it's the data that gives the predictive quality that separates a business from a practice.
yeah, yeah. I forget which excuse me, I forget which book it was that I read, but it was one of the books of the last year, and and the author talked about what the progression of AI is going to look like, and he talked about it from a Fortune 500 corporate America sort of perspective, right? So I'm I'm working in this cubicle, right, and I'd like to take my vacation sometime around New Year's and take the family to Hawaii, right? So the way technology started was I would hop onto our internal intranet, and I would type in some sort of a frequently asked question, right? And it would say something like how to request time off, right? And the system would shoot me back a response with a link that says, it sounds like you have a question about this. Have you clicked on this link? Have you read this? Right? And it just regurgitates something based on one of the keywords, right? And I go, oh, I guess I could have just read the employee handbook, right? So I click on the link and it's like, here's who you need to reach out to request time off,
Mhm.
right? That's like the first step.
Mhm.
The second, like the version 2.0, is I jump onto our intranet and I type how to request time off for New Year's. And the system shoots back, it looks like you're trying to request time off for New Year's. Here's the link to our internal scheduling so that you can see who's not scheduled to work because you'll need to fill your shift while you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like me to schedule a phone call with HR? Here's their Calendly link so that you can get on their calendar in order to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, huh, this is like infinitely better than version 1.0, right? Like
Much better.
I mean, yeah, this is amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Version 3.0 is how do I request time off for my vacation over New Year's? And the system shoots back in a conversational tone. It shoots back, oh, I know that you guys have gone there a few times. It's great to see you going back. You'll need to fill your shift. It looks like Jason has the time off. Would you
Mm-hmm.
like me to ping Jason for you to see if he's willing to take your time? I can also book you a ticket through Expedia for those exact dates. Is it just going to be you and the wife, or are you guys bringing both of the kids?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's where we're heading. Version 4.0 reaches out to you
Correct.
first, and it says,
This
"Hey
is done
Philip,
for you.
right,
Right.
right. Hey Philip, last year was your annual trip to Hawaii. It looks like you guys left for about 10 days. Jason's the one that took your time last year.
Yeah.
Jason's no longer here. Greg
Yeah.
has replaced Jason, but Greg has family that lives in San Francisco. Greg has family that lives in San Francisco,
Damn it, Greg.
and and it looks like he requests time off about 2 months before he usually goes on vacation.
Yeah.
If you'd like to make sure that you get your vacation scheduled before Greg, I suggest that we end up reaching out to him sometime in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That implemented into real estate.
Yeah. And by the way,
It
it looks
says-
like you need a haircut. Wait, what?
I was gonna say,
Exactly.
yeah. Your blood pressure has been on the rise. It's time to
Yeah.
take a vacation.
That's right.
Yeah. But it's predictive analytics, right? Based on it's the same reason why I turn on my car in the morning and my phone says, "Hey, it's 9 minutes to the office." It's because around this same time every morning he heads here, right? Like that's literally how I know that we've been going to to certain restaurants too frequently, is when I turn my car on at 6 p.m. and it says, "Oh, it's 7 minutes to this restaurant." I'm like, "Oh, we should probably right? Like it's those sort of predictive analytics just incorporated into real estate.
Yeah.
A real world one of those for real estate, especially now that people are buying houses between 6.5%-7% right now. Give it a couple years. When we do eventually see things, maybe we see them dip back down into the fives or maybe just below, right? Then you get a notification on your home app, and your home app says, hey, your mortgage rate's a 6.75. With rates now at 5.25, you would actually save this much on your mortgage. Click here to refinance, right? Click here to suddenly pay less on your home. Right. That's a lot harder when everyone's buying homes at 2.75. Right?
Yeah.
Like it was going to be hard to do that. But now, especially give it that couple, let's get through maybe this year, maybe next year. And then when we start seeing those start to dip down again, if that technology, whoever builds that into their apps, if I have an all-in-one app that tells me, here's the estimated current value of your home, here's your estimated mortgage, click here, make your life better instantly. Like, who's not going to take that? And that's using data.
Okay.
Yeah, like even sorry, go ahead, Phil.
I was going to say, we can imagine. Okay, so that I think we've got a pretty good idea of what a future could look like in real estate. Refinance your mortgage. Take care of stuff in the house. Oh, by the way, the houses down the street have been selling at this. Your kids are now in high school. Would you like me to reconnect you with Jacob because you guys have talked about selling your house when the kids moved? What do you say to those folks, though? I'm going to change gears a little bit, to those folks who resist that, who would resist that right now and say, that's not me. That's not the experience my clients want. They want me, right? the how would you counsel me if I was sitting opposite you and said, yeah, I get it, but that's not my style.
I guess there's always the possibility that you're empirically right. Probably not, but there's the possibility, right?
Probably not. I like that caveat.
But there's the possibility. The easiest thought process is thought experiment is if you are in Anchorage, Alaska, and your clients absolutely want the curated experience that you bring to the table,
Mm-hmm.
and for some reason your wife got a job down in San Francisco, and you had built a practice, not a business,
Mm-hmm.
so you left your practice behind and you moved to San Francisco. Would your database proactively seek out someone else exactly like you that could provide the exact same curated experience that you're used to providing because that's what they want? Or do you think that they would want something a little different, or something that's just a little bit more? I think excuse me. I think too frequently we look at the word like craft,
Yep.
right? Like craft beer, right?
Big fan. All in favor.
Right, but we hear that word and we think, oh, he's a craftsman, right? Like he makes everything by hand, so it's better, right?
Yeah.
Some of the vehicles that are in the shops the most frequently are the hand built vehicles,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
the Bentleys and the Rolls Royces are in the shop more frequently than the Toyotas and the Volkswagens.
They're always
Right?
broken. Yeah.
They're always broken, right? And I'm not saying that you can't deliver a better experience than a robot. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. But if you can find a way to deliver your curated experience that you don't want to let go of and have it supplemented with the Volkswagen, Toyota,
Yeah.
automation, systemization, reliability.
Yeah.
God, man, that's how you win.
I think if there's one takeaway from this, if you're watching this or listening to this, um, hit rewind and listen to the last 30 seconds again, because I think that's critical. That idea that yeah, you probably do, because that it is that crafted experience is your personal unique value proposition. It is the thing that differentiates you in a noisy marketplace. And yet I think what we're saying is you have to underpin that with great data and predictability in order to build something that's consistent. Otherwise you are just stuck hand making your product every time.
Yeah.
And I think people's preferences and styles change too, right? Like when you say, oh no, my clients wouldn't go for that. We have a seller right now. She's 90 years old and her preferred method of communication is texting, right? That wasn't a thing 5 years ago for her, probably, 10 years ago. Or I have, when I was in the military, this is probably 2012 at this one. No, even long before that started. This is like 2008, 9. Facebook had kind of just become a thing. We're on Facebook doing our, and some of the older guys are like, why, like, you idiots, like, what are you doing on a stupid Facebook, wasted time, kids, blah, blah, blah. And now one guy in particular, I get friend requests from him all the time and I deny it every time. And it's like, because he was just he was a jerk, but I get friend requests from him all the time. And this is the guy who is openly marketing, you guys are morons. What are you doing? What are you, a girl? Like, what the hell? Like, you're a teenage girl. Like, and yet here he is buying his house on the internet, probably. Right. Yeah. So things change, styles change. And the people that sit there and say it doesn't, they're the ones that are screwed. So,
yeah. They're the ones that ultimately end up using DocuSign in 2024 when they should have been using it, for the last 12 or 15 years. ultimately your clients are going to want, like, they're going to want any friction that can be reduced from the transaction, from like start to finish. And I don't mean the 45 days that you're in contract. I mean like the entire, I'm thinking of buying a house, to that's awesome, we're finally moved in, right? Like,
Mhm.
any friction that can be reduced in that through technology or automation or AI is what allows you to excel, right? And ultimately, if anybody even wants to remain in this industry, just to stay competitive, they'll ultimately have to incorporate it into their business. It's just a matter of whether they incorporate it early on,
or later.
or wait until some $500 million team is doing it as a, as a practice with every single one of their clients, and they're like, all right, I guess I should do that too.
Yeah, there will be someone who combines craft and data that will have a competitive advantage over you. The question is not if, it's only when.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a final example of this literally last night at 8:30 in the evening. I had a realtor show up at my doorstep to drop off a this is it, not going to show anybody, but drop off a handwritten contract because they had an older client and they couldn't figure out how to get their scanner to work. Literally on the doorstep, I said, well, do you know about this app? Did you use an iPhone or an Android? Android, he said. I said, well, okay, well, that's a mistake. But uh, but I'm sure that there's an app, there's an Android version of this app that would let you just scan that stuff with your phone, and then you could have just texted it to me. You didn't need to drive 45 minutes across town at 8 o'clock at night to drop off a contract. Oh man, I never even thought about that. All right, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. So I mean, there's like even something as simple. I don't know what CRM you both use, but even something as simple as a lead score, like a contact score, which has been pretty normal, right? But there's multiple different things that go into a lead score, right? Like how accurate the data is that you have on them, how many data points you have on them,
Mm-hmm.
whether they open your email, right, like raises their
Mm-hmm.
score. If they forward your email, that raises your score. If they click on the links in the email, that raises their score. If they search for proper, like, there's all these activities that they can do where your CRM says, hey Philip,
Tap
this
tap.
guy looks like he's ready to buy, you should call him,
Yep.
right? And there's it's just looking at the behaviors that someone is taking. And if you don't have those data points to incorporate into your CRM, it's not like that person's not gonna buy. They're just not gonna buy from you. They'll buy
You're
from
not going to be aware of their interest right
yep.
now. You're going to call all 2,000 people without any prioritized effort. You
Yeah.
may land upon them. You may craft your way into a transaction, but
Yeah.
that's luck, not intention.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So make peace with data and technology. Build what I heard in there. Number one, build a big database so that you have enough raw material to apply some methods to.
Yeah.
Number two, make peace with technology. You don't have to be the programmer, but you do have to understand how to use it in your business. And then combine that with craft.
Yeah.
Love it.
I
In the
want to
minute,
I
but
want to add on to number one right there too about
yep.
your data, because like, especially where we are, we have a lot of teams that are heavily relying on third parties for their leads, right? And I don't mean ones where, like, even with something like a Boomtown Commissions Inc., those leads are coming through marketing. They are coming to you through marketing. That's great. I'm talking about the ones that are attached to referral sources, right? So like your Zillows, Redfins, things like that. We use some of them to supplement things, but we're not making it our number one thing because that's not our data then, right? That's really another broker essentially generating the lead, nurturing the lead, handing them off to us for that short time, and then taking them back. And it's like when we get that reliant on someone else's data, then when they increase their fee they went from 25 to 35 to now 40%, all of a sudden we're in a position where we're stuck, right? That's like, well, I can't let go of this, right? Like this is my lifeline for business. I can't let go of it. I also can't afford it. And so now we're in a catch-22. Whereas when
Yeah.
you're developing your own data sources, bringing in that data, storing it yourself in your CRM is fine, but bringing it in your own methods through your own networking in your team, longer run, longer term, you're going to be better off, and your business, going back to net worth, is worth more, right? If my business is just reliant on somebody else's, it's not worth much at all. But when it's
Yeah.
mine, that PE value, right, essentially
Yeah.
goes up.
I
Yeah.
closed 100 transactions and 97 of them were from a third party source. Well, yeah. Yeah. All right. Jacob, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me on.
If we were to wrap up, a minute or two, if there's any either a takeaway that we didn't talk about that we should touch on, or something you wanted to underline, what do you want to leave everybody with?
Pretty religiously, if I ask a realtor who like the pinnacle business is that they want to emulate, right? Like if you could choose a business, another real estate agent's business to emulate, what does their business look like? And pretty religiously, the answer that I get is someone that has such a massive database that is so loyal to them, they really don't have to spend very much time lead generating, because the leads just passively come to them because they've already curated such loyalty with these people, such that they can do 100 units per year and make $1 million and don't have to spend any time lead generating. That's pretty religiously what comes out of their mouth. And you can build that business, right? You just need to understand what it requires in order to have that business. It requires a massive database that has automatic relationship building, right? Craft, mastered with systemization. And if that's the type of business that you want to emulate, the type of business that you want to build, God, man, why aren't you running full speed towards that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I think there's a tennis shoe company who said something. What was that phrase? What am I thinking of? Oh yeah, just do it.
just do it.
Oh,
Just
that
do it.
one.
That
That
one.
guy.
That guy. Exactly. Yeah, worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Jacob, thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it,
Absolutely,
guys.
our pleasure. If someone wants to reach out to you, how do they find you on the socials? I know you're active on Instagram. Is that the best place? Where should we find you?
Yep, at Jacob_Sebring, or I'm on Facebook at Jacob Sebring.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it. Jason,
Awesome.
any closing thoughts from you today?
No, this is it's that whole like pay attention to future stuff. Like it's changing. Oh, what's the big one Gary always says? Gary didn't make it up. Change is inevitable. Participation is optional, right?
Optional.
But we say optional, but it's like your option is change or later.
Or not. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Massive database powered by information, like a massive, not just wide but deep, married with craft. That's my takeaway. I love that. I love that idea. All right. All right, everybody. Be safe. Be well. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Till next time.